On the day that President Trump returned to the Oval Office. President Trump is back in office as our 47th president. He gave a magnificent inaugural address. It was necessarily divisive in some portions. I will discuss that. But first, in the event that you missed it, let's listen to what the president had to say in the the first hour of our show today. Here is President Trump addressing the country earlier today.
Thank you very much, everybody. Well, thank you very, very much. Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, Chief Justice Roberts, Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end. And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free. America will soon be greater, stronger, and far more exceptional than ever before. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country, sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing in the United States of America. As we gather today, our government confronts a crisis of trust. For many years, a radical and corrupt establishment has extracted power and wealth from our citizens while the pillars of our society lay broken and seemingly in complete disrepair. We now have a government that cannot manage even a simple crisis at home, while at the same time stumbling into a continuing catalog of catastrophic events abroad. It fails to protect our magnificent, law-abiding American citizens, but provides sanctuary and protection for dangerous criminals, many from prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. And other states who are still suffering from a hurricane that took place many months ago. Or more recently, Los Angeles, where we're watching fires still tragically burn from weeks ago without even a token of defense. They're raging through the houses and communities, even affecting some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country, some of whom are sitting here right now. They don't have a home any longer. That's interesting. But we can't let this happen. Everyone is unable to do anything about it, that's going to change. We have a public health system that does not deliver in times of disaster, yet more money is spent on it than any country anywhere in the world. And we have an education system that teaches our children to be ashamed of themselves in many cases, to hate our country despite the love that we try so desperately to provide to them. All of this will change starting today, and it will change very quickly. My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over. Our liberties and our nation's glorious destiny will no longer be denied, and we will immediately restore the integrity, competency, and loyalty of America's government. Over the past 8 years, I have been tested and challenged more than any president in our 250-year history, and I've learned a lot along the way. The journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is why each day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day. It is my hope that our recent presidential election will be remembered as the greatest and most consequential election in the history of our country. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda with dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society, young and old, men and women, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, urban, suburban, rural. And very importantly, we had a powerful win in all 7 swing states. And the popular vote, we won by millions of people. To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true.
Let's pause right there. I will be back. The most important part of today's inaugural address, the second inaugural of Donald Trump, the Golden Age of America speech, will continue after the break, but the most important part is just about to be said. So don't go anywhere and don't miss it. I've written about it. My assessment is posted at Fox News Opinion. I wrote it immediately after the inaugural address. It was a superb address, superb. The heart of it is coming up. The second inauguration of Donald Trump, who is back in the Oval Office, busy working. I want to return to his inaugural address. I believe this is the heart and soul of the address coming up right now.
Thank you. Thank you. National unity is now returning to America, and confidence and pride is soaring like never before. In everything we do, my administration will be inspired by a strong pursuit of excellence and unrelenting success. We will not forget our country. We will not forget our Constitution, and we will not forget our God. Can't do that. Today, I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release. And I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country. Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And by invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, I will direct our government to use the full and immense power of federal and state law enforcement to eliminate the presence of all foreign gangs and criminal networks, bringing devastating crime to U.S. soil, including our cities and inner cities. As Commander-in-Chief, I have no higher responsibility than to defend our country from threats and invasions, and that is exactly what I am going to do. We will do it at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices. The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it. We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again, right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. We will be a rich nation again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal, and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers. In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago. And thank you to the auto workers of our nation for your inspiring vote of confidence. We did tremendously with their vote. I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before to restore competence and effectiveness to our federal government. My administration will establish the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Something I know something about.
All right, pause right there. That was the heart of the substance of the address. The rhetorical heart of the second inaugural address is coming up, and it harkens back to Lincoln. So don't go anywhere. I've written about it over at Fox News. President Trump is back in the Oval Office. He gave a superb second inaugural address today, which I am replaying in this hour, so that if you missed it, you'll have a chance to hear it. Let's resume where we left off.
We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities. This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. This week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay. And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going to end immediately. Our armed forces will be freed to focus on their sole mission, defeating America's enemies. Like in 2017, we will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office, the hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families. Thank you. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs. President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman and gave Teddy Roosevelt the money for many of the great things he did, including the Panama Canal.
All right, stop right there. We'll come back for more Panama Canal. My favorite line in the entire speech. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. That's the heart of the Declaration of Independence. The apple of gold, as Lincoln called it. Surrounded by a frame of silver that is the Constitution, and that commitment from President Trump in his second inaugural address makes my heart sing the day that Donald Trump returned to the Oval Office in triumph. His second inaugural address, an excellent speech, superb. Let's pick up where I left off, replaying it for those of you who did not get to hear it live this morning.
Officially been given to the country of Panama after the United States. The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made. And Panama's promise to us has been broken. The purpose of our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form, and that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal, and we didn't give it to China, we gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. Above all, my message to Americans today is that it is time for us to once again act with courage, vigor, and the vitality of history's greatest civilization. So as we liberate our nation, we will lead it to new heights of victory and success. We will not be deterred. Together we will end the chronic disease epidemic and keep our children safe, healthy, and disease-free. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars. Ambition is the lifeblood of a great nation, and right now our nation is more ambitious than any other. There's no nation like our nation. Americans are explorers, builders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and pioneers. The spirit of the frontier is written into our hearts. The call of the next great adventure resounds from within our souls. Our American ancestors turned a small group of colonies on the edge of a vast continent into a mighty republic of the most extraordinary citizens on earth. No one comes close. Americans pushed thousands of miles through a rugged land of untamed wilderness. They crossed deserts, scaled mountains, braved untold dangers, won the Wild West, ended slavery, rescued millions from tyranny, lifted billions from poverty, harnessed electricity, split the atom, launched mankind into the heavens, and put the universe of human knowledge into the palm of the human hand. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historic political comeback. But as you see today, here I am. The American people have spoken. I stand before you now as proof that you should never believe that something is impossible to do. In America, the impossible is what we do best. From New York to Los Angeles, from Philadelphia to Phoenix, from Chicago to Miami, from Houston to right here in Washington, D.C., our country was forged and built by the generations of patriots who gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. They were farmers and soldiers, cowboys and factory workers, steel workers and coal miners, police officers and pioneers who pushed onward, marched forward, and let no obstacle defeat their spirit or their pride. Together they laid down the railroads, raised up the skyscrapers, built great highways, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and triumphed over every single challenge that they faced. After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America, promise, and we will rebuild the nation that we love, and we love it so much. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So to every parent who dreams for their child, and every child who dreams for their future, I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We are going to win like never before. Thank
Let us finish it in the next segment. All right. The address is superb. The first day of the second term in office as President of Donald J. Trump. His second inaugural address was delivered this morning. I am replaying it in this hour. Let's go to its conclusion.
Thank you. Thank you. In recent years, our nation has suffered greatly, but we are going to bring it back and make it great again, greater than ever before. We will be a nation like no other, full of compassion, courage, and exceptionalism. Our power will stop all wars and bring a new spirit of unity to a world that has been angry, violent, and totally unpredictable. America will be respected again and admired again, including by people of religion, faith, and goodwill. We will be prosperous. We will be proud. We will be strong, and we will win like never before. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you.
It was a very, very good speech. Thank you very much. Superb. In hours 2 and 3, I'll be dealing with other events of the day, but I want to focus on the fact that in this speech, President Trump said we will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based, one with fair, equal, and impartial justice, and it will be the official policy of the United States that there are only two genders. In other words, it's the official policy of the United States that facts are stubborn things and science. Trust the science. There are only two genders. I do want to tell you about conservatives for lower health care costs, though, because there's a lot to be done, and standing in the way will be Big Pharma. One of the key reforms that the president has got to get done is to make sure that the setting of pricing of drugs is regulated so that the 575 price hikes of the past year aren't repeated this year. Conservatives for Lower Health Care Costs are a sponsor of our program, and they warn that Big Pharma is no fan of the Trump agenda. So go to pharmawindfall.com to learn more about how conservatives in this new second Trump term can stop Big Pharma, prevent higher health care costs, protect pay for performance in our private health care markets. Congress can stop Big Pharma. You can help. Go to pharmawindfall.com. pharmawindfall.com. Coming up next hour, America, Senator Tom Cotton joins me for a quick set of reactions that he has to the president's second inaugural address and to the former president's outrageous pardons of his own family. I spent the first hour of my program today replaying, for the benefit of the audience, because my goal is always to serve the audience, the entirety of President Trump's second inaugural address, which I think is superb. It will be remembered as the second inaugural of Trump, but it might also get the Golden Age of America tag, because that's what he promises. It's a big lift. That's what he hopes to deliver. Now, I'm an agnostic about tariffs. I don't know if they work or don't work. They worked in the age of McKinley and the age of other I don't know. We'll see. But I am absolutely ecstatic about the president's promise to, quote, "We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based," close quote. That is the essence of the Constitution. Second biggest thrill for me. He promised fair, equal, and impartial justice. He also went on to say, we are securing our borders. We're going to deport people who are criminals. We are going to return safety to the cities. All good. He declared the obvious fact that there are only two genders. Good. He gave a warning to the Chi-Coms, the Chinese Communist Party. That's what the Panama Canal talk is all about. Not about Panama, though there may be some overcharging at work. It's about the fact that the Chinese Communist Party is operating part of the canal has facilities along with it. That's not part of the treaty. So I was happy with that. I was happy with everything, actually. And there were parts that were divisive, necessarily so. Now, the greatest speech in the history of our country is Lincoln's second inaugural. It was very divisive. He said in it, if God wills that the Civil War continue all the wealth piled up by the bondsman 250 years of unrequited toil shall be sunk, and until every drop of blood drawn with the lash shall be paid by another drawn with the sword, as was said 3,000 years ago, so still it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. Close quote. That's pretty divisive. Had to be said in 1865. So when President Trump declared today that the weaponization of the Department of Justice will end, that's divisive, but it's true. It has to. And it's been ongoing. Now, I just have to say, I am aware of the pardons by former President Biden. How I love how that rolls off my tongue. Former President Biden, of, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 members of his family. I haven't counted. Who knows? They might have left one on the desk. It's embarrassing. It's an admission against interest. It is obviously evidence of corruption. The Foreign Agents Registration Act is the key statute here. Did James Biden and the other members of the Biden family represent foreign governments without disclosing it? They are protected from prosecution for their failure to do so. But as of 12 p.m. today, if they have not registered, they're still in violation of it. Again. So, that's what I think. I'm not sure. Burden of proof is on the United States government. But if they are still representing foreign governments, as of 12 p.m. today, and they have not filed a Foreign Agents Registration Act, that pardon will not suffice. Moreover, everyone pardoned today on the J6 committee, staff of the J6 committee, everybody else pardoned today. If you go before a committee of Congress, or if you are questioned by a Federal Bureau of Investigation agent, and you lie or evade, you're guilty under 18 U.S.C. 1001. There are going to be some hearings, there are going to be some inquiries. Justice will be done. Justice will be done. The weaponization was awful and terrible, and it's over. Donald Trump is back. Now, the border is closed. They're making a show of it today. James Woods has directed us over to the whitehouse.gov because there's a fabulous video that obviously Donald Trump oversaw the production of, probably Dan Scavino. And that's great. I'm not going to get bogged down in the Biden pardons, though I will ask Senator Tom Cotton, who's coming up for a brief appearance today, both what he thought of the speech and what he thought of the pardons. And I will ask Victorino Mattis, who's coming along as well from getting hammered in the Washington Free Beacon. I'll ask Bethany Shondark. I'll also talk to you. 1-800-520-1234. What did you think of the second inaugural address of Donald Trump? 1-800-520-1234. I'm not often given to taking calls, but I think today is a pretty historic day. Martin Luther King holiday, which we celebrate. I thought President Trump appropriately recognized that. He certainly spoke the spirit of Martin Luther King with the phrase, "We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based." Pray that it be so. Now, there's one part you probably didn't get to hear. Opening prayer by Lorenzo Sewell. Pastor Sewell is from Detroit, and he gave a benediction for Donald Trump. Cut number 2.
Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that you gave our 45th and now our 47th president a millimeter miracle. We are grateful that you are the one that have called him for such a time as this, that America would begin to dream again. We pray that we would fulfill the true meaning of our creed, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. that all men are created equal. We pray that you use our president, that we will live in a nation where we will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we are so grateful today that you will use our 47th president so we would sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and because America is called to be a great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous hilltops of California, but God, we're asking you not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi, from every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will be able to speed up that day where all of your children, black men and white men, Protestant and Catholic, Jew and Gentile, will be able to sing in the meaning of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank you, God Almighty. We are free at last. If you believe where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Come on, put your hands together and give your great God great glory.
Yeah, I thought Pastor Sewell was magnificent. Chris in Chicago, you're on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Professor Hewitt, I just want to say for the first time since this day in 1980, I've got genuine optimism, and I really appreciate President Trump outlining with some specificity what this has been all about for everybody in the world, for everybody who supported him, and for everybody who voted against, and everybody else. Now we know, and I think he's done us an enormous service already just in the speech. It's difficult to say these things in front of Kamala, in front of the whole rogues gallery of establishmentarians, but you know, it had to be done.
Had to be done, Chris. It was necessarily divisive, but it was superb. And as I think Lincoln in his second inaugural had to say, we're going to go as far as it takes, as long as it takes. That was divisive too. But sometimes you got to be divisive. He did not linger on it. He did not name names. He did not bring up the pardons. But it was a great opening, what I hope is a great second term for President Trump. Please stand by. I'll be right back, America. More of your calls at 1-800-520-1234, which connects you to the Hugh Hewitt Show. The day can get better if the Ohio State University Buckeyes win the Natty tonight against my second favorite team. Sorry, Irish. Sorry to all my friends who are Notre Dame alum, but the day could get better. It's been a really good day thus far, except it started about noon. The pardons are deeply embarrassing to a republic of laws, deeply embarrassing. The family pardons, like Hunter, James Biden, and Sarah Biden, and
Uncle Frank,
Valerie Biden Owens, and John Owens, and Frank Biden. They're all just very deeply embarrassing. But we'll talk with Senator Cotton about that after the break. Your comment, 30-second rule is in effect. Nancy in Montana, you have 30 seconds. What do you think, Nancy? Nancy on line 3.
And I never have felt so much as an American after hearing the determined wisdom and words of President-elect Donald J. Trump. I was just ecstatic. I just felt like red, white, and blue.
Thank you, Nancy. Chuck in Pittsburgh. What do you think, Yinzer?
Hello, Hugh, and hello, universe. The great national nightmare is over.
And there are people who don't like Trump, but the majority of Americans love his policies on the border, national defense, and others. And I loved watching the telecast, watching Joe Biden and Kamala Harris having to sit there and take it.
Well, I felt kind of bad for him, but it's not something you can avoid doing when you're going to repudiate 4 years. It's got to be divisive and it's got to be blunt, and it was. Thank you, friend. Greg in Connecticut. Hello, Greg.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I'm a little bit nervous. Question for you. I think the best thing Trump can do is move forward with his agenda and look to the future. But with the pardons, how do you issue a blanket pardon when there's never been a charge?
It's very possible. It is constitutional. I'll read to you from Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1. The president, quote, shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States except in cases of impeachment, close quote. Don't have to be prosecuted. Don't have to be convicted. They can be reprieves. They can be preemptive. They are effective. Doesn't mean they're in the clear. They cannot now continue to represent foreign governments if they have been doing so without filing immediately that paperwork, and they cannot lie about it to any federal agent. Thank you, Greg. George in Columbus, Ohio. Go Bucks.
OH.
IO.
And morning glory, Counselor. Great
evening
to
grace to you,
again
sir.
On a wonderful day for America. I also wanted to bring greetings on behalf of the Tribbles who are hanging out in the chat room. And
pretty sure they're drunk by now.
No, we stayed respectfully sober in light of the importance of today.
That was, the inauguration was over 2 hours ago. They've been drinking, 4 hours ago. That's a lot of lit up time.
The game is tonight, so there's pre-gaming to be done.
Yes.
Anyway, was listening in on the Daily Wire feed, and they had most of the inaugural address, and I just have to say, it's probably a little churlish of me, but it was great for Trump to say the things that he said right there in front of Biden and Kamala and everybody and Chuck and Nancy and all that. Maybe
it was necessary, George.
Yeah,
it was necessary. Might not have been gentle. It wasn't overtly specific with regards to them, but the ideas that he put forward: 2 genders, equal application of the law, end of weaponization, and most importantly, the society shall be built on colorblindness and merit. Amen, amen. Again, I say amen. George, thank you. Go back to drinking. Hey, Generalissimo, one of our sponsors is myphdweightloss.com. Did they set out a special note to people like you who lost 50 pounds? It's okay to have some snacks on Inauguration Day when it's the second Trump inaugural?
No, they did not. But if you want to celebrate, you can have some celebratory protein. That's for darn sure.
I think 864
644
1900. That's
864
644
1900.
If you called your counselor, what's her name?
Rachel.
And Dwayne lost 50 pounds using myphdweightloss.com, a great sponsor of the show. I didn't lose it; he lost it. If you called Rachel,
yes,
I think she would give you a French fry waiver.
No, she would not.
For today.
It depends. If you're on maintenance, you can have a French fry. You can probably have a snack like that, and that's fine. If you are on weight loss mode, well, no.
Okay.
You can't.
All right. It depends. Call your counselor. That's why it works for people. They have counselors like Rachel available 24/7. 864
644
1900. Now, highly concentrated Hugh podcast today. We'll begin with Cotton and go to Vic Mattis, and we'll include Bethany, and then my opening remarks this hour and next hour. I am curious, when does Dwayne's World drop, and what's your focus coming in?
We are dropping on Wednesday morning. It will be taped tomorrow night with Jim Talent, former senator from Missouri. And I'm sure by then Marco Rubio will be the new Secretary of State, and we'll see who else the Senate has approved. But I know the Rubio vote's supposed to happen tonight. And we will go through the first 24, 36 hours of Trump 2.0.
And there's too much news to cover. All
Tons.
The EOs that he's covering and all the pardons that have been issued. I'm just sort of celebrating with callers today but I want people to know I will have a full show tomorrow analyzing everything, and Dwayne's World will be out tomorrow, and Highly Concentrated Hugh today, and we'll get Senator Cotton after the break. I do want to play Bernie Marino on Newsmax. Senator Marino from the great state of Ohio had this to say, cut number 4.
Look, the Democrats are going to have the stench of Joe Biden on them for a long time, for decades to come. It's clearly a corrupt administration. They committed no crimes. Why would there be a pardon? And think about the outrage if the reverse had happened 4 years ago. Look, President Trump could have pardoned himself. He did absolutely nothing wrong. That was proven in case after case after case. And yet the Democrats and Biden did it proactively. But of course, we know it's not Joe Biden doing that. It's the corrupt people that worked around him to make
He's
sure
right,
that
by the way. I don't think the
get out.
president has any idea what he signed today. Who knows? They're still effective. Jim in Atlanta, Georgia. I want to get 2 more callers in this segment. Jim in Atlanta, you got 30 seconds.
Great tough love speech, and it was a calm tough love speech that we all needed to hear. I have the same question as you. Are these tariffs that are to get rid of tariffs, like they were in 2018 when he told that to the European Union negotiator, or is it Smoot-Hawley 2.0?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I hope they are not Smoot-Hawley. Mike in Glendora. We go from Atlanta to California. Mike, what do you think?
Hi, I'm supposed to, my son Kevin and future daughter-in-law Sophia in your con law class, I'm supposed to call you Professor Hewitt. So Professor Hewitt, he gave us big dreams, not small dreams. So these dreams give us confidence. They instill confidence in America that lost a lot of dreams.
All right, I'm absolutely with you on that. Can't promise to pass your daughter and future son-in-law, but I can promise you that as the ups and downs of the Trump administration comes, I will be reporting them faithfully. Joined by Senator Tom Cotton, who is the conference chair of the Republican Conference in the United States Senate and the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and in the front row of today's second inaugural of Donald Trump. Senator Cotton, thank you for making a couple of minutes. I want to ask you about the president's speech and the former president's pardons. First, what did you make of the speech?
Well, Hugh, thank you. It's great to be back on with you. It's good to have Donald Trump back in the White House. It was a fantastic ceremony. My only regret is that due to the weather, we couldn't have it outside, to have hundreds of thousands of Arkansans and others from across the country to join in what was a wonderful occasion. I thought President Trump's speech was outstanding. I think you might call it the new golden age of America speech, because he was focused entirely on bringing America back to safety, prosperity, and freedom, reversing the damage done by 4 disastrous years under Joe Biden. It's got to say, it's testimony that God looks out for the United States that we were able to survive these last 4 years with Joe Biden in the White House without more calamity than what we saw. But I'm very excited to get to work. We're getting ready here in the Senate, not just to pass the Laken-Riley bill that will give our immigration authorities more power to detain criminal aliens, but I hope to confirm Senator Rubio as Secretary of State and John Ratcliffe as the CIA Director.
I hope you do too. My favorite part of the speech, Senator Cotton, is when he said, "We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based." Do you think that is easier said than done, or that we can get that done with a division of civil rights that an Attorney General Bondi oversees?
Well, President Trump is dedicated to it. I know Pam Bondi will as well, and I'm sure they'll have an outstanding team around them. And that's what the American people want as well. From my travels on the campaign trail, my work across Arkansas, to looking at public opinion polls, they don't want the left-wing ideology that has been forced upon them for the last 4 years. They want a country that rewards merit and excellence and hard work, and does not see people for the color of their skin or what sex they are or where they're from or what their upbringing was like, but rather who they are. And on this Martin Luther King Day, I think it's particularly special or appropriate that we remember that aspiration that almost all Americans share.
Now, Senator Cotton, you are chair of the Intel Committee, and I'm asking you this with that in mind. The pardons by former President Biden this morning shocked me. I expected James Biden to be pardoned because of what I suspect are Foreign Agent Registration Act violations. I did not expect 4 other family members to get the pardon. What did you think of those pardons?
Hugh, the pardons to virtually everyone in Joe Biden's family when combined with the pardon of Hunter Biden last month, I think simply confirm what so many on the right have said for more than 5 years now when referring to the Biden crime family. If Hunter Biden did nothing wrong, but especially siblings of Joe Biden and their spouses, who most Americans have never heard of, have done nothing wrong, why on earth did Joe Biden feel the need to give them a pardon literally as he was sitting at Donald Trump's inauguration? All it does is confirm what so many have said about the Biden family for years, that from the beginning they've traded on his office and his influence and his name.
Now, Senator Cotton, I've been assuring the audience that if the Foreign Agents Registration Act was violated by any of these people, and they have not registered as of 12:01 today, they're guilty again of violating FARA. Am I correct?
That's possible, Hugh. I'd have to look at the law and the facts. I will say this, as I said of the Hunter Biden pardon last month, Joe Biden may have hoisted himself and the Biden crime family on his own petard because a pardon absolves them of other liability, and therefore they have no excuse not to testify in front of a congressional committee. So Congress can figure out exactly what it was that Joe Biden thought he needed to pardon virtually his entire family for.
Now, I would like those hearings to go on in the Intel Committee under secrecy so that we do not know if there has been a compromise, what the compromise is. Will you be conducting those hearings, or will Judiciary?
I think in most cases it would probably be Judiciary, or in the House. I think they've set up a select committee for some of these matters on the weaponization of government against the Biden administration's political foes, and also on the January 6th committee itself. So I expect those would be likely to be the forums. Of course, if there's any matter within the committee's jurisdiction in which I believe wrongdoing has occurred and needs to be investigated and presented to the American people, then I will move forward on that path. And I believe it would be Judiciary and those House special committees.
Senator Tom Cotton, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day, as I'm sure every independent Republican and many Democrats will be, because of the restoration of the idea of a colorblind, merit-based society. Why am I playing Jeannie C. Riley to welcome Vic Mattis, co-host of Getting Hammered and Washington Free Beacon weekend editor?
Hugh, I'm sorry, I have technical
difficulties
difficulties at the moment. I'm not able to hear you right
over
now.
the air without any context. And Vic, good to see you, Vic. How are you? Oh, he can't hear us. Oh, there's something wrong. We will work on that. Vic Mattis is a dear and regular friend, but we can't figure out his timing today. I have to replay that tune, Adam, so get it ready when I reset it up. I want to remind everyone that Donald Trump is presiding over a massive set of signed pardons. Not pardons, executive order. The pardons were all Joe Biden, and they may be some lying around, given the number that were dropped from the helicopter this morning as he left off for Delaware. But I don't think we're going to learn about any more. The 5 family pardons plus Hunter are 6. So 6 pardons were necessary to cover the president's family. I don't believe we will be prosecuting former President Biden or his wife or anybody else. I don't think Donald Trump is that guy. But I do believe the obvious implication of those pardons is that Donald Trump was right when he talked about the Biden crime family, as Senator Cotton just told us. I think they were all right. I've never said that on the air before. I know about the Foreign Agents Registration Act. I know about the necessity of disclosing if you're representing a foreign government and you have not done so. It's a crime in the United States. Now they're going to have to answer to appropriate committees of Congress and indeed to the Department of Justice when they come calling. They're going to find out whether or not those pardons were appropriately issued. And I'm looking forward to finding out, indeed, if they were. I'm going to go back to the phones as well at 1-800-520-1234, something I do not normally do. Normally, if you're just a new listener to the Hugh Hewitt Show, you know I take very few calls. But reactions to inaugural address, as important as the second address by Donald Trump, are warranted. And so I'll take more calls at 1-800-520-1234. Also want to update you on my house guests. They are probably going to go home today. They did make a trip to their house on Saturday. They had to go by, and I'm glad to say this, they had to go by 4 checkpoints to get to their house. But their electricity's turned on, their water is working, and I hope that the city of Los Angeles has realized that the error of its ways, the extraordinary gross negligence of their preparation for the fires of last week is not mitigated by overprotection. Now, the Santa Ana winds will be back, not tonight, then tomorrow or Wednesday, and they may return. I've told my house guests, please, it is a joy having you. Please come back if there's an evacuation notice. But I do believe that the city of Los Angeles heard from enough people that it was absurd to keep people away from their homes. Absurd and probably unconstitutional in the absence of any kind of specific and imminent threat. I believe it's unconstitutional to keep people away. Specific and imminent threat is what it's got to be done. Playing that a second time because Vic Mattis couldn't hurt it the first time. He is, of course, co-host of Getting Hammered, weekend editor at the Washington Free Beacon, weekly guest for us. Good. Hello, Vic. Happy Inauguration Day to you.
Hello, Hugh. Happy Inauguration Day to you, and apologies for the technical difficulties.
I understand that. Let me ask the most important question. How is your dad, who was struck by a truck or a car, doing? I heard that on the podcast last week and was immediately worried.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you for asking. You sort of expect with the elderly that they're going to have falls and slips and things that happen at home or wherever they are. You don't expect them to be actually in a crosswalk and hit by a vehicle, just going about his day in the middle of broad daylight. So that was very unexpected, and it was frightening. He is on the mend. A lot of broken bones, but he's a fighter. Like I said, he as a kid, he survived Japanese occupation. He's not going down without a fight. So he's in a rehabilitation center now. It's literally one step at a time. But he likes to, it's just baby steps. And it's a long road to recovery considering his age. But he is doing much better than he was, say, a week ago. So thank you for asking.
Well, the prayers of all the audience. Now, Vic, you and Mary Catherine Ham on Getting Hammered, a podcast that is indispensable, threw out a Harper Valley PTA, and I laughed out loud because I knew what it was because I'm old enough. You're not even old enough to know what it is. And Mary Catherine had to take to X to explain to people, what were you thinking out of context pop culture references?
Yes. Well, the only reason why I knew Harper Valley PTA because it was a TV show, and I watched a lot of TV growing up as a kid. It was, I think, in the early 1980s, and it's now, I believe, for some reason in my mind, I think Valerie Harper was the actress in Harper Valley PTA. I could be wrong about that.
I don't know. I only know the song. I didn't ever watch the show, but I think hypocrisy is a wonderful subject. That's what Harper Valley PTA is all about, hypocrisy.
Right.
The Biden pardons, Vic. I'm reeling as I consider he pardoned pretty much everyone named Biden in the United States. I'm surprised you didn't expand it to that. What did you make of those?
Yeah, it seems the only person that's not going to be pardoned is his unnamed granddaughter, Navy Joan, down in Arkansas. 8,064 pardons. That is considerable. We thought it was a big deal when Barack Obama had pardoned, I think, over 1,000 or close to 2,000. But 8,000 really takes the cake of any president in the history of the United States. What's also more disturbing is the preemptive pardons. So this is something like pre-crime from Minority Report. It's, in case you get caught for something, we have you covered. But I still believe that you have to be convicted in order to be pardoned. I think that's part of Article 2 of the Constitution.
No, actually it's not. My view is they're all effective as of the date of today. But those who were in violation of the law under the Foreign Agents Registration Act are still in violation of the law if they don't file. Joined by Vic Mattis. I'm playing this a little bit later in the program. Vic, I did not know until you told me that he issued 8,000 pardons. Who did he pardon?
As you know, there were a number of people. It's the nonviolent drug-related offenses. That's the bulk of them, as you know. But throw into that mix, you have all those who were on death row. You have family members. You have the member of the J6 committee. and their staff, by the way, and apparently in some cases their spouses. So it's very broad and sweeping. I didn't think at the end he was going to end up pardoning Frank and Jim Biden, his brothers. But sure enough, within a few minutes left of his presidency, in fact, news broke when he was already in the Capitol Rotunda of his pardoning his brothers that this had just happened. So he really got them all in there. And, of course, Dr. Anthony Fauci. But it really puts them in kind of a bind, I think, because, it's sort of like otherwise it's like they have to plead the fifth in a weird way. They have to go out of the way to say, for the record, I haven't committed a crime, because if they just take it, if Adam Kinzinger, he did the same thing. He said, I'm refusing to pardon. But it puts them in a very weird bind because it's the suggestion of, in case they find something that you did, we have you covered.
I'm not worried about.
It's unbelievable.
I'm not worried about the J6 stuff. I am only worried about whether or not there are foreign actors influencing the Biden administration over the past 4 years. And I just asked Senator Cotton if there will be hearings into this. He assured me that there will be. And I remind everyone, if you were violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act at dawn today and you haven't disclosed by noon today, you're still guilty at 3 o'clock today. Do you think, Vic, we're going to get many hearings into this?
Yes, I think regardless of any of these pardons covering whoever from President Biden, we still have to look into all of these things. And it's a good thing that at the very moment, the Senate is still in Republican control. Congress is in Republican control for this brief moment in time with the White House together, definitely, because you have something like with Hunter Biden and his relationship with CEFC China Energy, that all has to come out in terms of his dealings, including Joe Biden's denial that he knew about what his son was doing. And obviously he did. There's now photos of everybody together. It's ridiculous. And whether or not Hunter Biden has to serve any time, we have to find out exactly.
I just want to know who was influenced by the Chinese government and any other government. It's incredible to me that it happened. Vic, let me turn back to President Trump's Golden Age of America speech. How did you enjoy the second inaugural?
Yeah, well, we were actually down on at a mutual friend of ours, Hugh's apartment that overlooks Pennsylvania Avenue. So it was lovely, even though there was not a parade to be seen. But it was nice to be down there. And I have to tell you, I've never seen so many red hats in the District of Columbia in my life. It's a brief moment where that seemed to be the case. Lots of security. People were very polite. It was very easy to use the metro system in and out. And the weather was not it's not too cold if you're only there for, a half an hour or whatnot. And we watched it, obviously, on the television screen. I think the speech was exactly as you would have expected. I don't think there's any surprises, unlike 2017. You knew he was going to go after people who are right there in the audience, and criticize them. And they're just going to have to grin and bear it. That's just his style. But I think it just was a combination of he wants to be forceful, that America is back, and he wants to be optimistic at the same time, hence the golden age. And of course, he just had to give notice to our adversaries as well that there's a new sheriff in town. So I think he hit all the points that should make obviously his supporters very happy. He's not backing down.
Last question, Vic. He mentioned territorial expansion and he mentioned the Panama Canal. I think the Panama Canal is all about Chinese Communist Party's control of anything bordering the canal. What do you think?
Yes, it's sort of like bringing back the Monroe Doctrine, if you will, and one of our foreign policy columnists, Mike Watson, mentioned this as well. I mean, this is what it is about protecting our interests, not us necessarily versus Panama, as it is of China happening to be meddling in the Western Hemisphere, in North America. So, I mean, that has to be taken back. I mean, it was one of Jimmy Carter's last acts there, if you remember, right? It was he sold it to Panama, I believe, for $1, and it needs to be managed and needs to be taken back. The United States put a lot of capital and energy and resources and lost a lot of lives in the process of creating this thing, and it was one of the great achievements of the last century. So that is something that I think is going to be very interesting, and I think a lot of people would actually support it once they find out that it's not about Panama per se, it's about China.
Yeah, a man, a plan, a canal, Panama, again. That's what I want to say, Vic Mattis.
That's right.
Please carry my best wishes to your father, and please keep us posted. I am very glad you were able to join us today, despite the technical malfunctions. I look forward to again talking to you next week. Go get Getting Hammered, the podcast that your morning show for any time in the morning. Now that I'm not on in the morning, you might need it. Thank you, Vic Mattis.
Thank you, Hugh.
So glad you're with me on today, the day of days, the second inauguration of Donald Trump. Back in the Oval Office, busy at work, by the way. They had many executive orders prepared and ready to go. He sat down. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you can watch him do this. He sat down and began to sign them. And I mean, it's like no auto pen needed. Gonna sign, gonna sign, gonna sign, gonna sign, gonna sign. And a lot of good coming out of that. I don't know all of them. I am stunned by the number of pardons and commutations, just in gross, that Joe Biden signed before he left the presidency. Some of them are just gross. The ones for his family members, not named Hunter, his brothers. I don't know who all these Bidens are. I don't know why he thought he had to do it, but we'll find out. History, we'll find out. We will know. I want to go back. I kept Vic Mattis over from the last hour into the break. Vic Mattis is the co-host of the Getting Hammered podcast, also, along with Mary Catherine Ham, does that twice a week, but he's also the Washington Free Beacon weekend editor. I caught up with him, and here's the rest of that. Welcome back, America. I'm joined by Vic Mattis. I'm playing this a little bit later in the program. Vic, I did not know until you told me that he issued 8,000 pardons. Who did he pardon?
As you know, there were a number of people. It's the nonviolent drug-related offenses. That's the bulk of them, as you know. But throw into that mix, you have all those who were on death row. You have family members. You have the member of the J6 committee. And their staff, by the way, and apparently in some cases their spouses. So it's very broad and sweeping. I didn't think at the end he was going to end up pardoning Frank and Jim Biden, his brothers. But sure enough, within a few minutes left of his presidency, in fact, news broke when he was already in the Capitol Rotunda of his pardoning his brothers that this had just happened. So he really got them all in there. And, of course, Dr. Anthony Fauci. But it really puts them in kind of a bind, I think, because, it's sort of like otherwise it's like they have to plead the fifth in a weird way. They have to go out of the way to say, for the record, I haven't committed a crime, because if they just take it, if Adam Kinzinger, he did the same thing. He said, I'm refusing to pardon. But it puts them in a very weird bind because it's the suggestion of, in case they find something that you did, we have you covered.
I'm not worried about.
It's unbelievable.
I'm not worried about the J6 stuff. I am only worried about whether or not there are foreign actors influencing the Biden administration over the past 4 years. And I just asked Senator Cotton if there will be hearings into this. He assured me that there will be. And I remind everyone, if you were violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act at dawn today and you haven't disclosed by noon today, you're still guilty at 3 o'clock today. Do you think, Vic, we're going to get many hearings into this?
Yes, I think regardless of any of these pardons covering whoever from President Biden, we still have to look into all of these things. And it's a good thing that at the very moment, the Senate is still in Republican control. Congress is in Republican control for this brief moment in time with the White House together, definitely, because you have something like with Hunter Biden and his relationship with CEFC China Energy, that all has to come out in terms of his dealings, including Joe Biden's denial that he knew about what his son was doing. And obviously he did. There's now photos of everybody together. It's ridiculous. And whether or not Hunter Biden has to serve any time, we have to find out exactly.
I just want to know who was influenced by the Chinese government and any other government. It's incredible to me that it happened. Vic, let me turn back to President Trump's Golden Age of America speech. How did you enjoy the second inaugural?
Yeah. Well, we were actually down on at a mutual friend of ours, Hugh's apartment that overlooks Pennsylvania Avenue. So it was lovely, even though there was not a parade to be seen. But it was nice to be down there. And I have to tell you, I've never seen so many red hats in the District of Columbia in my life. It's a brief moment where that seemed to be the case. Lots of security. People were very polite. It was very easy to use the metro system in and out. And the weather was not. It's not too cold if you're only there for a half an hour or whatnot. And we watched it obviously on the television screen. I think the speech was exactly as you would have expected. I don't think there's any surprises, unlike 2017. You knew he was going to go after people who are right there in the audience, and criticize them, and they're just going to have to grin and bear it. That's just his style. But I think it just was a combination of he wants to be forceful, that America is back, and he wants to be optimistic at the same time, hence the golden age. And of course, he just had to give notice to our adversaries as well that there's a new sheriff in town. So I think he hit all the points that should make obviously his supporters very happy. He's not backing down.
Last question, Vic. He mentioned territorial expansion and he mentioned the Panama Canal. I think the Panama Canal is all about Chinese Communist Party's control of anything bordering the canal. What do you think?
Yes, it's sort of like bringing back the Monroe Doctrine, if you will, and one of our foreign policy columnists, Mike Watson, mentioned this as well. I mean, this is what it is about protecting our interests. It's not us necessarily versus Panama, as it is of China happening to be meddling in the Western Hemisphere, I mean, in North America. So, I mean, that has to be taken back. I mean, it was one of Jimmy Carter's last acts there, if you remember, right? It was he sold it to Panama, I believe, for $1, and it needs to be managed and needs to be taken back. The United States put a lot of capital and energy and resources, and lost a lot of lives in the process of creating this thing, and it was one of the great achievements of the last century. So that is something that I think is going to be very interesting, and I think a lot of people would actually support it once they find out that it's not about Panama per se, it's about China.
Yeah, a man, a plan, a canal, Panama, again. That's what I want to say, Vic Mattis.
That's right.
Please carry my best wishes to your father, and please keep us posted. I am very glad you were able to join us today, despite the technical malfunctions. I look forward to again talking to you next week. Go get Getting Hammered, the podcast at your morning show for any time in the morning. Now that I'm not on in the morning, you might need it. Thank you, Vic Mattis.
Thank you, Hugh.
Now, I've got a bunch of podcasts I listen to. I hope you listen to Highly Concentrated Hugh, which is at iTunes, Spotify, the Salem Podcast Network. I hope you listen to Dwayne's World. I also like the Ruthless Podcast, Getting Hammered, everything that National Review puts out, like The Editors and the McCarthy Report. I love Dan Senor's Call Me Back. I'm going to have Bethany Mandel on a little bit later. I want to remind you I have a YouTube channel as well. So if you're new to the show, go and please subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss anything like Tom Cotton's conversation with me or Vic Mattis or coming up Bethany Mandel after the break. Also want to remind you, follow me on X, and I have a new column, brand new column. I wrote it after the inauguration speech today, the Golden Age of America speech for Fox News Opinion. So if you just go over to Fox News, you'll find it, foxnews.com, and I've got links to it on my X account. I will put it up as well on my Facebook show account, Hugh Hewitt Show. I want you everywhere. I want to cover you 24/7. Now, I very rarely take phone calls, but after I'm done talking with Bethany Mandel, I will. The phone number is 1-800-520-1234. 1-800-520-1234. Now, that is how you give. Again, we are still in the middle of a crisis in Southern California. It is abating to the extent that our somewhat slow authorities are allowing people to return to their homes if they have electricity and water and they're not in any imminent danger. Our house guests have departed. It was a joy to have them. They are welcome to come back if another evacuation order were to issue. We have 3,000 firefighters in Los Angeles County and City right now, so I do not believe there will be more evacuation, even though we have a Santa Ana event coming up, I think beginning tonight and into the next 48 to 72 hours. but we are very well protected. But I do want to say, I want to thank the people of Los Angeles for being very orderly. My friends went to check on their house on Saturday, and they went through 4 checkpoints. And that's good. No looting, no police activity necessary. They're getting their act together. It's only taking them 2 weeks tomorrow to figure it out, but they're getting their act together. Some people have lost everything. So the city and county of Los Angeles and the state of California don't have to make it worse than it is, which is it's the worst disaster since 9/11 in the United States. Not loss of life. That was actually Lahaina, I believe. But it's bad. It's very, very bad. And finally, we're beginning to see signs of life from local government. Bethany Mandel is a weekly guest of the Hugh Hewitt Show, and she joins me now. Bethany, amid the inauguration, amid the fallout from the pardons, we still have this enormous story unfolding in Israel, where 3 hostages were returned yesterday. Your reaction to seeing them returned and your assessment of the deal thus far?
It was a really powerful, moving day, and it was funny because I saw a lot of my left-leaning liberal Jewish friends saying, this was Biden's deal. It wasn't a coincidence that it started the day before the inauguration. One of the most powerful undercovered parts of yesterday, though, was actually that a 4th Israeli was returned. These 3 girls were not rescued, but they were, returned in this diplomatic ceasefire deal. But there was a 4th Israeli that he was killed 11 years ago. He was an Israeli soldier that was murdered, and his body was taken back into Gaza. And the last thing that the IDF did before they pulled out of their positions in Gaza, some of them, was that they rescued his body and they brought it back for burial in Israel, and he was buried alongside his father. His body has been held captive for 11 years, and Hamas moved his body from location to location, and the IDF located it and were able to give him a respectful burial. And that to me just speaks to, this is the Israeli people, that you're never left behind. And I hope and pray that these 3 girls are just the beginning of the iceberg, and 94 other souls will be returned.
It was not my intention to bring this up, but on Friday, Haviv Rahigur joined me from Israel to give me his assessment and his emotional response. And he knows someone on the list. So he's in favor of the deal, and Israel is in favor of the deal. But it will not be for me or for America to tell the Israelis if Hamas has broken the deal again. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I do. I don't really feel comfortable on opining on the merits of the deal, but I will say something that I found interesting was I have a friend, Hillel Fold. His brother Ari was murdered in Jerusalem while he was grocery shopping. And as part of this deal that freed these 3 civilian girls, his brother's murderer was released. And he said, God bless Israel and God bless the Jewish people, that we value life and that we redeem the captives. That is a phrase that is said in morning prayers every single day. And so, as angry as he was that his brother's murderer was released at the end of the day, he appreciated that his brother is gone, but these 3 girls could be saved, and he was in favor of it. And I think that really speaks volumes.
We will continue to follow that as it unfolds. I'm unclear on the details of timing, but I will cover it every day. Bethany, let's switch to the United States now. What did you make of President Trump's Golden Age of America speech?
I thought it was great. I think the most moving part was when he talked about the assassination attempt that happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. Right before the inauguration, our friend Selena Zito gave a really great interview to the Free Press that I urge your readers to watch, and she's writing a book about that experience. But what I thought was most moving and meaningful about the inauguration was the sense of humility that he seemed to exhibit when he talked about that experience. He talked about the fact that God had spared him and that God had plans for him. This was something that you and I talked about on his show a lot, and it felt really cheesy, but I thought it was very meaningful that he had this humility that I've never seen in him when he discussed that assassination attempt. And it made me feel hopeful that he understands the mandate that he has, not just from the American government, but from God.
Now, I am calling it a superb speech, Bethany, and I've posted a column assessing it over at Fox News. which they've pushed out, and I'm grateful for that. People can disagree. I'll take calls after the break, 1-800-520-1234. I do not believe it was unnecessarily divisive, but it was divisive because it's a repudiation of the past 4 years, and it has to be blunt. Did you think it was unnecessarily divisive?
No, it was funny. So I got my hair cut right before I came on your show, and I was talking to my hairdresser about it, and she said, normally he has this pompousness and this snideness to him, and she's a fan of his. She voted for him very eagerly all 3 times, but she said when he was repudiating what Biden had done and what he had said over the course of the last 4 years, he didn't say it with anger or malice. He really said it with, this is the reality. This is why I was elected, because America was faced with 2 paths and they decided to take mine. And it is, of course, a repudiation of the other path.
Yeah. Now, Bethany, what did you make of his commitment? And I thought this was the best part of the speech. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. It was my favorite line of the speech. What did you think of that?
I thought it was great. I mean, so much of it was a repudiation of the identity politics and the DEIization of our society. The American people do not want to be judged by the color of their skin. They want to be judged by the content of their character. Today is MLK Day. And I thought that was a really important inclusion in his speech, because that is what America is all about. And it hasn't been like that for a while. And it's funny, I was talking to Dwayne, your producer, right before we came on, and we talked about how Kamala took a picture with her all-female flight staff as she flew back to California. And I said, well, that's why she lost.
Yes, it is. Now, let me ask you about you are the author of Stolen Youth, co-author of Stolen Youth. At one point, he declared, from here henceforth, the official policy of the United States government is that there are 2 genders. It doesn't really matter what the official policy of the United States is, because there are only 2 genders. But it's useful to have the president say that if it's embodied in anti-discrimination rules and regulations. What did you think when he said that?
I mean, of course, I think about the legality and the importance of that, but I also just think about the clown show that has been the White House for the last 4 years. The transgender activists who went topless on the front lawn of the White House, and the officials that were walking around with a beard and a handbag that they stole from someone's suitcase, like kleptomaniac, psychotic, transvestite people who were in charge of things that they shouldn't have been in charge of the national government. I mean, all of this, not just the election, but it feels like the last 6 months, has been a repudiation of that just clown show alternate reality that they had tried to foist on us for so long. And it feels like the American people are finally just saying, enough is enough. Musk said it. Zuckerberg even said it. We've had it with being told that up and down is left and right.
And I think I think applause was widespread. Now, online, you've got the Beltway class accusing Elon Musk of giving a Hitler salute. It's just absurd. They'll never change, will they, Bethany? They can't change.
No, and that's exactly what I was thinking, that they have learned no lessons. I mean, the guy went to Auschwitz, the guy went to Israel. I was present at Bibi Netanyahu's speech in Congress, and I was sitting across from Elon Musk. He was sitting in front of Noah Argamani, a returned hostage. He was sitting next to Sarah Netanyahu. The guy isn't a Nazi. And what's interesting to me, as someone who sort of is interested in cancellations, because I've been the victim of several, is that a lot of these cancellation mobs come for people on the autism spectrum, which Elon Musk is. And they take advantage of this, and with no sense of shame, they talk about ableism and all of this stuff. But at the same time, they're going after an autistic guy who had an awkward moment. And anyone who knows someone in the autism spectrum knows they have awkward moments.
Yeah, they are bringing an ice cutter to the frozen over PC that is so encased the United States legacy media, and they're going to break unless they melt. Bethany Mandel. You can find her on X at Bethany Shondart. Thank you for joining me on a busy day, Bethany. It's a great day. Donald Trump is back in the Oval. The second inaugural address, the golden age of America address, was very good, superb. I've written about it over at foxnews.com if you want to read the full assessment of the speech. And then I get to go home after the program today because it's Martin Luther King Day. I'm not teaching. I get to watch Ohio State crush the Fighting Irish. I mean, it's like a perfect day. And I'm also happy for the evacuees who are able to return to their homes today and continue, including our 2 evacuees. It was great joy having them. You know, old friends, you get to know them very well, and we were happy to have them. But they are happy to be going home. And the city and county of LA is finally getting their act together and focusing on the people who've lost everything as opposed to annoying and inconveniencing those who haven't. I want to go to the phones and talk to people now. We'll begin in North Hollywood with Eric. Hello, Eric. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show. What'd you make of the speech?
Yes, hello. It brought me to tears and humbled me to my knees. And the part that I loved, well, I loved all of it, but the part that I really loved was when he quoted the old term manifest destiny, because the new manifest destiny is definitely the space frontier. The one negative that I got out of the whole event was Amy Klobuchar referring to America as a democracy. 6 times she said the word repeatedly, and we are a republic, not a democracy.
We're a democratic republic. That's the way to refer to us, a democratic republic. I got to say, I didn't watch Klobuchar. I was out running up the implacable hill and coming back down, trundling, because I was walking more than running today because it's a Monday. But I got to say, I didn't see her, and we didn't want to hear her. And I'm very glad. You know, basically, everything about the inauguration is about the president's speech and the peaceful transition of power. And I'm very glad that John Roberts administered the oath, because the Chief Justice has long been in favor of a colorblind society, and the president echoed a sentiment he said a long time ago: the way to end discriminating on the basis of race is to end discrimination on the basis of race. Bravo. Thank you, Eric. Speaking of the implacable hill, I did go up it. Let's go to Betsy in Forestville, Texas. Hi, Betsy.
Hi. Hello, Mr. Hewitt. I'm so glad you're on the air.
Thank
I'm
you.
enjoying your program.
Oh, thank you.
I have a comment for you. I'd like your response. I thought that pardons were given after a conviction. Is there any way we can undo these pardons, blanket pardons?
No, we can't undo them. They can be given preemptively. They can be used to shield people. The only thing I want to assure you is if anyone who is pardoned continues to violate the law that they were pardoned for violating, and in this case, I think it's the Foreign Agents Registration Act. If any of the, for example, Biden family, there are at least 6 Bidens who've been pardoned by President Biden, former President Biden. If any of them continue not to disclose their Foreign Agent Registration Act requirement, they're guilty of the Foreign Agent Registration Act requirement as of today at 12:01. So I'm telling them, get their registrations in and their disclosures in, or they're going to get prosecuted for a FARA violation. And everything else under oath that is said going forward, that's 18 U.S.C. 1001 felony if you lie when the Congress investigates. I rarely take calls. Today is one of those days that I do. 1-800-520-1234. What did you make of President Trump's second inaugural address, the Golden Age of America address? Gregory in Los Angeles. Hello, Gregory. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good afternoon, Councilor Hewitt. First of all, thank you for replaying President Trump's second inaugural address. It gives me a lot of hope that this country is finally moving back on a track of it's God-given import to be a more before they became parents, to be apart for 3 years in World War II. I have never forgotten that. They sacrificed 3 years of their marriage apart, no cell phones, all that time to procure the safety and sovereignty of this country. That has been long neglected in the last 12 years or more by previous administrations. So President Trump, thank goodness, he sees that, and he's making an effort to finally get us back on track and sustain our sovereignty and also our ability to have energy independence, which has had such a major negative impact on the cost of goods and services in this country.
Thank you, Gregory. I want to assure people calling, we're going to get to them. We're just a little jammed up here. We're going to get to you. Gregory, okay, he's gone. Brent in Los Angeles as well. 1-800-520. We're overwhelmed with phone calls, and we'll get to you. 1-800-520-1234. Go ahead, Brent.
MAGA dittos, Hugh. My favorite part of our righteous and courageous President Trump's second inaugural was his brazen, bold, and unabashed giving of all credit to God for America's wonderful, miraculous, and transcendent win-win-win. God bless USA, USA, USA.
He did do that, and I loved both Franklin Graham, Cardinal Dolan. I loved, in fact, the benediction by Lorenzo Sewell, which I may play again in the next segment. Thank you, my friend. Let's go to Scott in Arizona. Hello, Scott. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hey, Stu. How you doing?
I'm great.
Glad to hear you're in the afternoon now.
No, I'm so happy to be back.
Was stoked by the election, and today was the culmination of a lot of work for the last 4 years.
Yes, it was. And a lot of people out. I want to say thank you to everyone who helped elect Donald Trump. From anyone who contributed $10 or walked 10 doors, because it took everybody. And it was a landslide in the Electoral College. He won.
When are you coming out to Prescott, Hugh?
Now, you know, that depends entirely on our local affiliates and travel schedules, but I hope it's not that long, because I loved Prescott when I was there the last time. I was up there with, can't remember who was your governor then. Jan Brewer was your governor. I was up there with when Jan Brewer was helping get Dave elected. And I'll be back. Don't worry about that. Thank you, friend. Fred in Chicago. Hi, Fred. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good afternoon, Hugh. Regarding the pardon/commutations, I think the most grotesque of them was the commutation of the sentence of Leonard Peltier, who was convicted of the 1975 cold-blooded murders of 2 FBI agents. And the facts are just horrific of those. If you want to read about them, you can do it at
I know all about Leonard, and I got to say
314.
this. I don't believe Joe Biden had a clue what he was signing when he did that. I don't believe he understood who he was. He killed 2 FBI agents, didn't he?
Yeah, he shot him in the head.
And so,
like if anybody wants to read about the facts of the case, it's found at 585.
No, wait, don't give out. We do not do that. We do not do URLs on the air, and there's a reason for that, which is sometimes people give out bogus URLs and do it for profit. But they can look it up, and they can find out it was a dastardly act, and I do not believe the President of the United States, former President of the United States, knew what he was doing. I think some woke joke of a staffer added that person to the list, and the outrage is building already, so thank you for reminding me about that. Be well, Fred. Todd in Long Beach. Hello, Todd.
Hey, enjoy the show. Really informative stuff, and I just wanted to comment. I couldn't believe when I saw Biden's last farewell statement. If you go back and look, the last few words he said were, "Is this the right way off the stage?" I just couldn't believe it.
Well, I have some pity for him. This is why I'm not at all certain he knew what he was doing. I'm sure he said, "Get me my family members' pardons," but the other ones, Leonard Peltier, I'm gobsmacked, and it will take some time to go through it. But the Beltway media, of course, legacy media, the reason they're bleeding out in their ratings is they are not covering the latter, and they're making up stories about Elon Musk doing a Hitler salute. It's disgusting, but we're over that now. Trump's back. The golden age of America, I hope, is true. Thank you, Todd. Robert in Los Angeles. Hello, Robert. You're on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
That seems a bit of a stretch. You know what I mean? It's income tax evasion. That was usually a crime that was ongoing forever and ever, and there was not even a statute of limitation. Maybe somebody can think about that or something, though. Anyway, if you can kick it around there with you, it'd be great.
Well, I do believe that any crime that was ongoing has been pardoned up to the moment that President Trump became. You can't issue a preemptive pardon, but you can issue a pardon looking backwards preemptively, but you can't pardon future action. So those who are in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, they had better have gotten in their registrations today.
I say, okay, you kind of answered my question then, but I still think it's something hanging out there that should be investigated. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Elijah, where are you, Elijah? I hope you're not coming down from heaven on a chariot.
No, this is Elijah from L.A., and I just wanted to say Trump did a real good job on his speech today, and he made a real good point of making men and women, birthright to the United States, and that was real good.
It was real good. There are two genders. I mean, the simple statement of scientific fact, it ought not to be controversial. It is. It's upset the left. The only people upset with today's speech are people who hate Trump derangement syndrome, and people who are wholly encased in the liberal left-wing craziness of the last 4 years. It's been crazy. It's been absolutely crazy. And it's over. And it's going to be really over within a couple of weeks. It's already getting over with the EOs, and the border is sealed, and it's going to just turn back. If you're headed this way, turn back. You're not getting in. I'll be right back for the final segment of today's Hugh Hewitt Show. 1-800-520-1234. 1-800-520-1234 if you want to talk to me today. Judy, we have time for a quick call. Go ahead in Minneapolis, St. Paul, AM 1280 The Patriot. Great to have you, Judy.
Yep, I have a question. Is there a limit to the amount of pardons?
No.
That keeps somebody from doing 100,000 pardons?
No. Unlimited pardon power.
So is that something we should be working on?
I would not spend the time. Donald Trump has 4 years. The clock is already ticking down. The most important thing is to move forward and not worry about a constitutional amendment that probably won't get passed. So, no, Judy. Now I want to thank you for the call. I want to close with the benediction that was given by Lorenzo Sewell, who's a pastor in Detroit, after President Trump had returned to office today in the Rotunda, cut number 2.
Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that you gave our 45th and now our 47th president a millimeter miracle. We are grateful that you are the one that have called him for such a time as this, that America would begin to dream again. We pray that we would fulfill the true meaning of our creed, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We pray that you use our president, that we will live in a nation where we will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we are so grateful today that you will use our 47th president so we would sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and because America is called to be a great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring.
Pastor, there's more. You should watch it all. Today's podcast has all of President Trump's magnificent, superb second inaugural address, the Golden Age of America address, will be posted at Highly Concentrated Hugh, available at iTunes and everywhere else. Thank you for listening today. Thank you for celebrating today. Put aside bitterness, put aside anger. Just move forward. Country's moving forward, going forward fast. And go and enjoy the perfect end to a great day. The Ohio State University Buckeyes, I'm sorry, Irish fans, I'm sorry. We're going to have to put the hurt on the Golden Dome. Going to have to dent the Golden Dome this afternoon. But perfect ending to a very good day is watching the Ohio State Buckeyes in a little bit.